everyone, and welcome to Live Your Happy TV. I am Maria Felipe, and it's always a pleasure to bring you every Tuesday some new content. I'm really excited about this week's guest for many reasons, and you will see why throughout the interview. But one of the biggest things that I'm so excited about is that usually we have A Course in Miracles teachers that join us. But this time we have an artist, and not only an artist, a teacher in her own right. She's been called the Renaissance woman of her age for this age, because of her diversified activities, and you'll see she does a lot. She started painting as early as age 7. She started painting early, and by age 7, she announced her intention to become an artist at age 7. Can you guys imagine? And she would sell 30 paintings by the age of 12. Are you intrigued yet? I have more for you. She had an illumination experience at age 21, of where she went into the light and seeing and communicating with God presence. She's also done many paintings of Mother Mary and Buddha, St. Francis of Assisi, and we're going to see some of her paintings today here on this interview. And her paintings are called spiritual realism. Spiritual realism. So realism. So we're in for a great treat. And I feel honored. I'm so happy that Stephanie, my manager, got you on here. And welcome, Nanette. I'm so happy to have you on the show this week.
Delighted to be here. Thanks for contacting me.
Yeah, it worked out great. You look wonderful, and you look wonderful, rightfully so, because I see here that you were former Miss Delaware, USA.
That was a long time ago. But thanks to all of the spiritual activities that I do and finding some of the elixir of life, things that the ancient school, the prophets used, I can stay young longer.
I can see that. Well, I'm excited. That makes me excited about my spiritual practice so that I can also stay young as it appears that we age in form. So let's get started with my first couple questions is, it looks like you had an illumination experience in your 20s. Can you share a little bit about that first before we get into your work as an artist and your paintings?
Sure. I was 21 years old. I was raised a Christian, and I would say in the universal sense, but I decided at about age 17 I was going to study all of the major world religions and the Edgar Cayce material, America's Sleeping Prophet, for those who don't know. And I also went to study yoga and meditation and mysticism. So I had been doing those practices for a few years when at age 21, I went to New York City, of all places, and I went to see a guru, a young boy guru, and we were told at this meeting that we would receive knowledge of God when we were ready to receive knowledge of God. And I said, boy, am I ready. There's nothing I want more than that. So then he said, but you have to accept this guru as your Lord Master. And I went, uh-oh, if I was going to accept anybody, it would be Jesus. But why do I need someone to mediate between me and God? God should be able to talk to me directly and for me to see. So I got up and walked out in the middle of New York City. By then, I was feeling my spirit quickening and pulling upwards. And I was already going into a nonverbal ecstatic state. And I went a few blocks away and wound up in another ashram that I'd never been in before or even knew about. And I'm hearing them reading about the Pentecost and the descent of the Holy Spirit. And just then I saw and heard thousands of wings coming from down through the ceiling with an orb of light, white light in the middle, and it landed on my head. And at that moment, if I looked into the light, I saw nothing but white light. And if I kept my eyes closed, I would see white light completely. And with my eyes open, it was just translucent light. And I was in this state of limitless ocean of love, total, unconditional love and ecstasy. And there's nothing that even begins to describe the love of God. And I wondered about the white light, and I was told it was source energy. And anything I wondered about in this timeless state immediately an answer would come. And at that point, I really felt like I had no questions, because when you're in a state of total beyond bliss, love overflowing, love immeasurable, there's nothing more you want. So then I wondered if there was a source to the energy, and I went deeper into the white light, which was my perspective was upwards. And as I moved upwards into the light, I saw that there was a center of being, or a spiritual sun. And that spiritual sun is exquisite beyond description, iridescent, incandescent, with rivers of living light. And I wondered at what the being was that I was seeing, because I had a concept, as most Christians would, of God being our parents. And yet, here this being said to me, I am that I am, which is the name of God as revealed to Moses and in the Vedas. I am that I was, I am that I am that I will be. And of course, Jesus used I am in many of his references as well. So I knew I was looking at the visible, spiritually visible face of God. And as I looked at this being and communed with this being, I recognized that it was the most innocent, pure, and good part within each and every one of us, that this being dwelled in each one of us. And all we have to do is open. And I thought, oh my goodness, you are closer to me than I am to my own heart. This was so simple. And that's why people who make things complicated often don't find that being, because they don't either volunteer to let go of everything and everyone in their life, which at this point was a precondition. I was asked internally, would I be willing to let go of everybody and everything in my life if necessary to receive knowledge of God? And I said yes, wholeheartedly. And I loved my family. I was betrothed. I had a crown. I was the Miss Delaware. I had a lot of things that in a normal worldly sense you would be attached to, but I loved God more. And I think it's merciful, because if God says to us, after we have an ongoing communication with the divine being, if God says to us, I need you to go thus and so now. If you say, oh no, wait a minute, I gotta do this first, and change my job and change my husband and ask permission and all of that, then it's better for you if you never heard it in the first place. Because if you don't do it after you've heard, then you're more responsible than if you never heard in the first place. So I was in that ecstatic state for 3 days in the white light, in complete ecstasy, in a nonverbal state. And when I got back to Delaware, where my family was, they saw white light around my head and shoulders. And when I was able to speak, I could only say one word at a time for a few days after that.
Wow.
So they said, what did you see? And I'd say, God, or love, or truth. And it took a while for it to ripen in my soul before I could really speak about it as I am now. And as a result, my brother, who was a Jungian psychologist and had colleagues who said that, well, if both sides of your brain went off, all the neurons, you would see white light. Or if you had a near-death experience, which this was not, because it wasn't involuntary, I volunteered for it. But then they said, but beyond that, it's a mystical experience that only can be known directly. It's not something that science can explain. Although today's science is leading us down paths of quantum physics and so forth, where they're beginning to understand spirituality more.
What you're sharing reminds me a little bit about A Course in Miracles quote that says, all you need is a little bit of willingness and miracle happens. A miracle is a change of perception from fear to love. And I feel that when we just have that willingness, and you had actually what I call big, huge willingness, like you were ready to, regardless what you said, you loved God more, which means that you were ready to let go of whatever it was in form, even that crown, right? What a symbol of Miss Delaware, whatever that represents, right, in form, to be able to get closer, to really have this experience. It's as if there was no compromising anymore. It's as if you just had this big space open of, I'm ready, because in this world of form, we suffer so much, Nanette, you know that. And it gets to the point that we're like, we're done. Like, I'm done done with this. I think that's, but you had it so early on. Don't you think? 21 is pretty early.
I think ideally that it was God's plan before the fall that we would grow to perfection by age 21 spiritually and hopefully physically, and we would automatically have communion with the divine. But that plan was derailed when, according to the ancient rabbinical sources, when our first human parents were just teenagers. And so the love of God was never fully developed before they reproduced and started a family and then weren't able to share it with the family. Because they didn't have a direct communication with the living God. And there's nothing more important in this life for us to do. Because no matter what, once that connection is established, it cannot be broken again. You're one with God's heart, one with God's mind, and you sense what God's will is in many situations.
And in what way did that, after having that mystical experience, how did it affect your, you as an artist and even you as a being?
Well, as a being, the least of my attachments was my crown, but I didn't wind up marrying that young man. I did go back to be with my family, but then I learned from people who were spiritual elders on the path. And after that, I decided that I would just really devote my life to doing whatever God needed me to do until he had somebody more qualified to do it. And that's how you say I became a Renaissance woman. That's what I've been called in publicity, because I was versatile, but I wasn't the most qualified in many cases to do many of the things that I did, such as being a political consultant for both parties at a congressional level. I wasn't interested in politics at all.
Wow.
Of being a film commissioner or the legislative aide for Delaware or any of those other things. But God taught me how to write speeches, how to write law, how to do forums, and everything went very well. It's almost like you get the download as soon as you make yourself available. Once God it's clear that that is your anointing and that's where you need to go. But as far as my spiritual artwork went, I did continue with that. And now I was more spiritually open. So I was seeing the saints, the sages, the angels, Jesus, and able to paint them. And everybody who has seen them sees them the same way. And I've gotten thousands of letters over the years from people of various faiths, as well as near-death experiencers who see them as I painted them and as I saw them in apparitions, and sometimes in communication with them, occasionally in lucid dreams. So I had a vision of Jesus in 1986, unexpectedly at Easter time. And I was supposed to be painting somebody else, but it was so profound, I painted him, and it was done in 3 days, which normally would have taken 3 weeks. So that painting has gone out as cards and prints throughout the world, and many miracles have occurred as a result of it. So the Catholic Church visionaries asked me if, first of all, the church investigated unbeknownst to me. I was not brought up Catholic. I was brought up High Episcopalian and Eastern Orthodox. And they had miracles associated with the paintings I'd done of Jesus and Mother Mary. So they took it to their visionaries at Medjugorje, Colorado, and South America. In all 3 places, they said that's how Jesus and Mother Mary appeared to them.
Wow. I'm going to show it. I'm going to show it.
Show it? Okay. That's the painting of Jesus. And we have...
I have this one. This is the one that I have. It's just, look at this. It's beautiful. I mean, I could just sit here and stare at this. It makes me want to cry.
Yeah, his immense peace and loving and healing energy just comes through as you're looking at it. I look at him every morning. And one nun took a small card of Jesus painting and put it on a man who had a tumor, and the tumor shrunk down to nothing while she was praying with her hand over the picture. And that's one of the reasons that the church investigated. So there was a lot of healing miracles, and even children who have near-death experiences see him that way.
All right, you want to share Mother Mary?
Yeah, here's the picture of Mother Mary. I want to get it so you don't have too much glare on it. Can you see that?
Yes. Uh-huh. Looks beautiful. Yes.
Here we go. This is Mother Mary and the Christ Child. And this painting was as a result of a Christmas Eve service at a candlelight church. we were having just singing Silent Night, and lo and behold, I had my eyes closed, and suddenly I was transported back in time and saw the Madonna up close. Now you will notice these pink flowers here. Can you see them? The pink
Yes.
Okay, so those pink roses I understood were her favorite roses, and you notice how lush and green it is here. Well, I went to Israel decades later, in fact, just a few years ago, and went to Mount Carmel, which is where the school of the prophets was. And I had found out that Mother Mary and Jesus were educated by the Essenes at Mount Carmel. That's why the last pope said that Jesus celebrated an Essene Passover, because obviously Jesus was an Essene, or he wouldn't have said that. Nazarene meant northern Essene. So while we're going through the ruins of Mount Carmel, of the Essenes, I see these same pink roses. And that's part of what I spoke about in some of the churches and the ARE recently. And when I came back, my angel in prayer said to me, they're not just beautiful roses that she loved, they're also medicinal. So I found out through some research and the science that has been done on this species of rose, it's a particular species of rock rose that grows there, that it has more super antioxidants, more phytonutrients, more immune boosters, more antivirals, and more things that will create longevity than anything else. So we are now working on a project to get this Mother Mary tea for people to have in America.
Wow, that's what that was going to be my next question. Are you growing some at your house, Nanette?
Yeah, I'm doing that too. In fact, I sent for the seeds because I just found out about this in the last year when I agreed to go back out and speak again. The angels gave me a huge download day and night for a couple of months. And then I found they was guided to the scientific and archaeological evidence to find everything that I painted decades ago. So many times, probably a dozen times or so, I have seen in advance someone that is in a painting or something in a painting that I haven't even encountered in this world and don't until years later. And Mary can send you some of those if you want to put them on your website of the pictures of the person when I painted them, and we published the picture decades before and later on when they appeared in my life, or I was commissioned to paint.
Would love that. Yes, absolutely. Wow. So we have Jesus, we have Mother Mary. Also, do you recall when you turned your life over to God? Was it, I know it probably was a lot earlier than 21. I know 21 you had the illumination, but when was it that you started? Did you start at that age 7 when you started announcing that, you wanted to be an artist? There was
there. My mother was an artist, and her ancestors were architects of the cathedrals, actually in Russia. And her parents had escaped before the Marxists took over. And so I had this in my DNA, and my mother was an artist, and she had too many commissions. That's how I wound up doing commissions to help her. By the time I was 12, I was already trained. But I decided, I remember clearly when I was 10 years old, my father, who was a brilliant scientist, had said that he had read about the prophecy pyramid before World War II, and it had prophesied that, and Nostradamus, and he said, in the book of Revelations is going to happen in your lifetime, little sweetie. So if you figure that out, let me know. Well, so there I am at age 10, reading the Bible and trying to figure out the book of Revelations, which is really challenging for anybody. But I did study all those things later in my life. So it was at age 10 that I started doing that. But my first vision that I recall was probably age 6. I was just laying in my bed, and I thought, awake. And I saw this huge sun face, only golden, with a man's face smiling in it, come right up from my sister's bunk to my bunk at the foot of the bed. And it was, the size of a bigger basketball. Freaked me out. I went downstairs and said to my mother, there's somebody in my room floating around. And of course, it took some while to calm me down. And it wasn't until many years later when Jesus took me to the spirit world that I understood what that was all about. It wasn't until I was in my 20s that I finally found out what that was. But that was the first vision I remember having.
I feel that what you're saying is just a reminder for all of us that there's so much more beyond this physical. you know, this physical world that we appear to live in. There's so much more than this, you know, this body. That's a beautiful example of that.
Yeah, one of the things I think a lot of people could be spiritually open already, but it's merciful that God, that they're not open all the time, because it would be very distracting for them to be seeing the spiritual world. They wouldn't be able to focus on what they need to do in this world. Nevertheless, that being said, I do give workshops on how to connect to your God presence and how to open spiritually. And I identify what each person's spiritual gift is that they can most easily develop. For example, you know, it's clear to me that you have inner vision and also intuition. And that's just, it's even without seeing your aura in person, I can see your face and read your face. And so you already have that too. And
I have, you said in my aura, you said I have intuition.
And vision. Yeah, your easiest gifts to develop that you've already done a lot of is inner vision and intuition.
Thank you for that. I get a little bonus there, a little reading. You know, it reminds me of when I was around that age, around 6, and I remember sitting on a couch and feeling a presence next to me, and I didn't understand who was hanging out with me, you know, because my mom wasn't there, my dad wasn't there, but there was a presence next to me, of where it was just an energy field. It wasn't like I could see it, but I felt something, and I asked that something what it was. And it shared with me that I'm the Holy Spirit. And ever since then, I knew that I had an inner wisdom, of where then I shut down after with the conditioning of the world. And now I understand it. Just like you say, now it makes sense to you what happened at 21. It makes sense to me, because now being a teacher of listening to your inner wisdom, that's why it came to me so young. And then I blocked it out. But it's beautiful, because we all have all these beautiful gifts, Nanette, you know? Just because of fear, it blocks it out.
That's true. And it's also conditioning, because our education system is geared towards materialism. And most churches don't know what I would call the science behind spirituality. So they have a hard time to help people to develop their spiritual gifts. And usually in a church, you're encouraged to go become a cloistered nun if you want to develop your gifts. But there are other ways to be in this world and develop your gifts. So we can identify them and then develop them through methods of certain meditation, prayer, color, fragrances, holy oils, you know, essential oils, and many other things that really helps. And one of the things I'm sharing now is the 8 super secret holy foods that I found out the School of the Prophets had used, but only for their prophets and prophetesses and priests, because it really accelerates your spiritual development, opens you spiritually, and causes extreme longevity. As you might recall, the prophets and the sages and the patriarchs lived to be very, very old in the Bible in the beginning. But then that knowledge had been lost, and I think now it's being brought forth. And some of it is due to enlightened men who are scientists in our time, who are principled men, and some of it is due to revelation. But what science is now doing is proving what before only the mystics knew. And so I've uncovered what those secret holy foods are, and I'm sharing that in workshops as well for people and in presentations.
Can you share some of what those foods are? A few of them?
We just told you about the Mother Mary tea with the flowers, the rock rose. I'll give you another example. I discovered in my research, guided by the angels, that every Buddha, and there has been several Buddhas, not just Siddhartha, was enlightened sitting under the same kind of tree, which is a fig tree. But there's many species of fig trees. So I found out that they all were enlightened under the sacred fig tree. It's called Ficus religiosa, is the Latin name. And there's something in figs that opens one spiritually, but particularly that species of fig. So I've actually sent for those fig trees, and I've asked some friend of mine who is an organic, large-scale gardener to grow them. And we're moving in that direction as well, because they're not commercially available unless you grow them in your own pot, which you can do.
I believe in signs and symbols, and I'm kind of blown away that you just shared that right now. We're very connected right at this moment because I was at Trader Joe's the other day, and I've gone 3 times already. And I know it's not the same fig, but I see figs for sale at Trader Joe's, and I've been called to buy them, but I don't. But I keep on thinking, it comes to my mind, I should get that, but I don't get it. So it's so interesting how it's all coming together. I was wondering, why am I so nudged by these figs? I'm not interested in eating them right now.
That's why. So it's
Wow.
a
That's
special species
amazing.
of fig. Any fig will help. But I looked up scientifically the research on these figs, and once again, they have certain nutrients. And I think monoatomic gold, which is one of the things that was used by the school of the prophets and the priests to accelerate one's spiritual development. And all these holy foods have larger amounts of special nutrients and also the monoatomic elements in them. I'll give you another one, and we in the workshops covered the science behind it as well as the use of the product so that everybody knows how to do it properly. Another one, all the emperors and empresses were the only ones allowed in Asia to eat purple rice powder, not black, not any other color, not white rice, not brown rice, purple rice, not red. And the reason is it would make them stronger, it made them more enlightened, and it made them live longer. Once again, the purple rice powder, if you just take a teaspoon of that or a tablespoon of that, instant energy without feeling hyped up. It's not like caffeine. Again, it has more super phytonutrients and antioxidants and other things in it than anything else that you can eat. So the purple rice powder is another thing that you can get online. It's called PXP Royale, is the company that I use. I should probably get something for plugging that company.
Yeah, you should get something.
I don't think you can get it in health food stores, but you can get it online. And if you're out of breath or you're just tired and sluggish, instant energy. I mean, in a matter of seconds.
I'm very psyched about that because I just had a 4-month-old baby, and I need, sometimes it feels like I would love, since I do this type of work, to kind of be rejuvenated or kind of feel a little bit without having to drink coffee, you
Yeah.
know? So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
you should drink the Mother Mary tea, use some honey in it, and we're going to be coming out with that tea. Well, we're already getting packaging and everything set up. This it'll be out probably by the end of the year, early next year, and we'll be having that for you. So stay in touch on that one.
Yeah, I'll stay in touch because my son's going to be almost 1. So I'll need the Mother Mary tea.
Yeah, and the purple rice powder will really help you too.
Yeah, I'm excited about these foods because I feel like everything, I always say anything that serves the purpose. Okay, anything that serves a purpose that we can use in form to be able to connect to God is beautiful. And why not use these types of tools to open up our vessel?
Right. In fact, the Bible said that God gave every herb and fruit of the field to be food and medicine for man. So it's obvious that the patriarchs had things that we don't have besides the atmosphere itself and the earth being supercharged magnetically that enabled them to live longer. And when we do enough research, which I did, there's history that shows that they had other things that they consumed. So I'm going back to the Holy Lands to research some of that because I know what they had. They presume it's extinct in some cases, but I don't believe so. And so we will find some of the rest of the holy foods and present them to everybody so they can have it, because it's not going to be necessary or desirable for people to have to become cyborgs or have AI or microchip implants or nanobots in their bodies in order to connect to the World Wide Web or even the cosmic web. When we do the special deep breathing, the meditation, the prayer, the special diet, and these special foods, and live a principled life, is going to happen, and it'll happen naturally without people having to use artificial things, which is basically what the globalists want to do and are pushing already in some countries where they're already doing that. So we don't need to do that, and it's against our sovereignty for us to get a microchip implant or to get nanobots in us, because it's not us that controls them. It's whoever put them in there that controls them, and then they control us.
Wow, that's huge. I'm happy that you are helping us and bringing in all this amazing information. And what you're doing right now, I'm gonna make sure that Nanette and everybody here that knows that on the description I'll be putting Nanette's website, and I'm sure there they can find where your workshops are.
Yes, christchurch.org is our website. And do you have a card, Mary? And also, we're going to have people contact us. Just contact us through the website. If you want to, Mary Mann is my assistant, and she's going to be able to keep a list of anybody who's interested in workshops. I do travel to do workshops as well. And I think it's so important. I've even setting aside the painting for now so that I can do these workshops. And we will be taking a group of people probably in March to the Holy Lands, to the ACIM sites, and to Mount Carmel, the holiest mountain in the world, to experience some of these very sacred places directly and commune with God there.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm not going to let you go until you share with us a few more paintings if you have them.
Yeah, we do. Okay, here's St. Francis of Assisi.
Oh, wow. How did this one come about?
In here. There we go. Go back a little. How's that?
Yeah, perfect.
St. Francis of Assisi. Yeah, now this one I was commissioned to do the picture, and I don't accept the commission until I have the vision. So actually it was 3 years before I had the vision, because the man commissioning it said he thought St. Francis was big. Well, I wasn't seeing him big. So I had this really vivid dream of Francis like this, singing with the sparrow. I thought, well, I'll call up the Franciscan monastery nearby. And Brother Francis answers the phone. So I said, you must know about St. Francis. Is there an eyewitness account, a description of him, of somebody who saw him during his life? He said, yes, come here. It sounds like what you saw. I said, well, he wasn't wearing a brown robe. He's wearing this flax-colored robe. And he said, that's how he looked at the beginning of his mission. He has a flax robe. We still have it in Assisi. I said he had dimples. He was singing with the sparrow. So it fit the description that they had there. And I went ahead on faith and did the painting. And while I tried to recreate the vision, so I got a costume made. And I said, God, who can I use for my model? And God gave me the man, Mark Goodman's his name. And I thought, well, he doesn't look like St. Francis, but probably his body does. So I finally called Mark, and he said, I'd be happy to do it. He says, my St. Francis is the one that brought me to God.
Wow.
So the photographer came that day, and he said, see these little violet flowers here? They were part of the vision. He said, those violet flowers were not even there yesterday, and they bloomed that morning. And the scene was just like in Assisi. So while I'm doing it, this little sparrow kept coming near me, and he was half grown in my studio every day when I was doing the painting. And I thought, gee, I wonder if that's like the sparrow in Assisi. So when you see the big painting, you can see his markings. And sure enough, there's 30 species of sparrow. But that sparrow looks exactly like the one in Assisi with the same markings when he's half grown. That's why St. Francis sent me that. And then 3 other animals came up to me at once when I was meditating. And I said, Francis, why did I see you this way? And the man commissioning it thought you were big. And he said, my chief disciple was big. He had a vision of my chief disciple. He was a Hulk. And he said, see me, so this is Francis. Wow. And then he conveyed to me many things about his mission and how he had wanted, really, he and St. Clair were supposed to establish holy couples in the world to really incarnate God's love through the family. But the church wasn't up to that at that time, and still isn't really. They're just going to have to be. But so he wound up just living a solitary life apart from her. And when God said, restore my church, he wasn't just talking about the building down the street. He was talking about the whole Catholic Church. They would have been very different. They wouldn't be facing the problems they're having now if they had listened to Francis and Claire.
Wow, that's beautiful. And then you have also, well, talking about, I don't know if you have the Holy Spirit.
I do.
Which is going back to my story earlier.
This is the Holy Spirit dove painting. Doesn't show up so well with the light here, but
yeah.
And
you can see these on your web, and you can see these on your website too.
Yes, so all the pictures are there, and there's also a video done of my some of what I shared with you, which was done at Universal Studios, Disney, of a documentary about my work and visions. And here's Archangel Michael.
Oh,
there he is. with his sword of blue flame, and he's wearing, this is the logo of my church, which is non-denominational. We sponsor the sacred arts and sacred sciences, sacred music, and so forth. And this is my vision of Archangel Michael. And he has done so much to save so many people's lives and protect them. Even now, like today, I'm wearing my Hawaiian outfit. I did a TV ministry in Hawaii the last few winters. And of course, they're having the hurricane coming down. So we're asking Archangel Michael to come in there and protect the Aloha family today.
That's beautiful. And your church, is it a every Sunday type of church?
No.
Speak there. How does it work?
Started out is a church that sponsors sacred arts, sacred science, sacred music, sacred literature, sacred drama, and sacred sciences. That's really what we do and have been doing for many years. So we may have, for instance, a concert of sacred music to raise money for the lost boys of the Sudan. As you know, I started a program of food for the poor in Delaware a long time ago. We distributed excess food from many different companies to places where people weren't getting it through the churches, because the poor often have no way to get to where they need to go to get food when they're out in the country. So we did that too. There's many things that I could talk about here, but there's one more I want to share with you. This is Archangel Melchizedek. And Jesus was called the high priest after the order of Melchizedek. And this is the archangel that works with that order of Melchizedek.
And how did this one come about, Nanette?
Well, as Christ is to us, Melchizedek is to the angels. And I had always wanted to paint him, but I had not had a vision of him until many years later. And he appeared like this genuflecting, saying, "Come unto me." And this is the gesture of grace that comes through him.
It's wow. That's powerful.
Now, on the back of each painting, the 8x10 prints, we have what are the virtues that you can more easily acquire by meditating with these pictures and praying with them. Not to them, we pray to God, but these are like our loved ones, our spiritual family that we're working with here. So they exemplify these virtues. This one is group and ancestral purification and healing, generosity of soul, planetary healing, divine administration, and selfless service. So this is Melchizedek. And each one of the pictures I've shown you has a special quality to it.
Wow, it's beautiful. Wow, I love how in the back it has that. That's wonderful.
That's the story of the picture and how it came about. And this is the one of the spiritual children, which is more generic, but you can see they're translucent, and he's giving her a flower. So this painting is heartfelt sharing brings growth and unity.
Heartfelt sharing brings joy
and unity.
Yes, I love that. I would love to put that in my son's room, because it's what a beautiful symbol that is. And when did that come about for you? What inspired that, Nanette?
Oh, I just wanted a picture. I was thinking about a picture that would convey true innocence and purity, because God is like the most innocent child, yet has the wisdom of all the universes. How do we convey that in a picture? Because we can't really paint God. So this is what I came up with. I saw this inspired scene in the mountains, and these two children in the field.
I love that you bring up the word innocence, because when I had my son is when the first time I was able to completely understand that word at the most capacity that I can in my brain, in my body, in this form that I'm living in. I really felt the innocence and of him, and I also felt God. I felt God. It's indescribable. It's as if the love of God, I can feel the love of God for me through my son.
Absolutely. And he feels it from you, because we are like God to the children and to understand. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to guide them spiritually and have them learn how to enter the silence and how to communicate with God directly. And the next generation will be amazing when that happens, instead of having distractions all the time of computers and so forth. Because the children are already open to the angels and their spiritual gifts when they're young. So it's our opportunity to help them develop them. And then they won't ever forget as they get older and won't have to recreate it.
That's beautiful. Well, in closing, I wanted to ask you a few more questions. One of them is, how do you balance your spiritual life with the world? So a lot of people, I feel, struggle, and I know also students I work with, it's hard for them to be with that very, very famous quote that says, "You're in the world, but not of it." I feel it's hard to balance the doing, because you're doing a lot in the world, right, Nanette, with helping, having your church and helping in the way that you do with your work, and at the same time have a spiritual life. How do you balance that? And how can you help others to understand that, how to be able to balance that type of life?
Well, I think we have to first get in the habit of cutting out some time each day for ourselves, not only just to follow our bliss, but really to commune with the divine, whether it's inspirational music or entering the silence is preferable, prayer and deep meditation, even if it's in your bathtub when you have children and you say, "Time out for mom, do not come in now," just wherever you can find that moment of space, of time and peace. That's really important, because quantum entanglement has now been proven that whatever we think or feel is activated in our body, in the water in our body, in the cells, in the DNA, and then it broadcasts out to everybody and everything around us, whether it's our home, our community, even our nation, depending on how strong we're feeling it and focused on it. So collectively, we are broadcasting to everybody 24/7, whether we know it or not, and influencing the people around us. And therefore, it's really important for us to find joy and carry that joy into our lives. That is the purpose of our life. And express it however we can, wholesomely, with our children, our family, our people at work. No matter what God calls you to do, that's what you need to do. And I used to say, if I waited to get paid until I did something, I would never have gotten much of anything done. I could step out in that direction. Now, there's times when I was offered a lot of money to do something, and I started out one thing, like the state artist, and I'd be the film commissioner, and then I'd be doing all kinds of other things for economic development. And so you have to follow that path and have discernment as to what it is you should be doing from moment to moment. But it's only when you've established the connection at some point, not only in your life on a daily basis, but it carries forth with you constantly then. So you're in a prayerful or meditative state, no matter where you are, what you're doing, as it becomes a habit.
That's beautiful. You were talking about purpose now, and guidance of where we're supposed to go. And I remember kind of have your background in the sense that, you were former Miss Delaware, and I was an actress for over 18 years. So I was in television and film, and I was in the Spanish soap operas, and, with the heavy makeup, the sexy girl. And I remember when I was called to be a teacher of God, and I went to ministerial school after Pathways of Light, which is a Course in Miracles based curriculum, of when I got divorced. And I remember that I didn't want to be a minister. I was like, I'm an actor. I don't want to be a minister. I don't want to speak or anything like that, or even do interviews such as I'm doing right now. And I just remember, because I suffered so much as an actor, because I really made it matter so much, and I let it define me, that there was a moment where I said, I just opened, just like you were, and I got this vision that, okay, I'm going to teach, but it's going to be joyous. So talking about joy, it's like you're going to be a teacher of God, and you're going to make it fun, and it's going to be joyous, and it's not going to define you like your acting career, and you're going to have a good time doing it. And then I feel that that's why I've had so much fun in this divine purpose that I have, is because I don't make it matter, Nanette, and I don't let it define me. It's more as I show up in joy and do this interview with you, and I share it for free to all my viewers, and just enjoy. And I think that that's already in a meditative state, and I'm communicating with God through my gifts and through my talents.
Exactly. Yeah. If Jesus said, I came to bring you life so you'd have it more abundantly, He didn't say you should go around and see if you can suffer more. And that traditionally Christians used to think that's what they were supposed to do. It's like they weren't being responsible enough if they didn't suffer. Well, Jesus didn't want us to suffer. He said, if you don't become like the little children, number one, you won't see God. And number two, you can't enter into heaven. So that's part of the process of joy. And that's why I think being with your son and with children is really healthy for people, because we need to capture that inner child in us too. And being around the little ones helps us to do that. And the children always have the angels with them.
Yeah. I was just thinking of when people ask me, do you get nervous when you speak? And I say, not necessarily, just because I show up in joy. And it's not about me, Maria, to separate itself looking good or speaking perfect English or anything like that. It's more of, I'm here to serve God. And when we're serving God, we become less self-centered.
Exactly. I was an introvert as a child. Nature was my companions. There was no children my age around. And so it was difficult for me to think about going and speaking or public appearances at all. And I was pushed out from high school on to where I had to do that constantly over and over again, until finally God said to me one day, don't talk about or feel that you're representing yourself. You're not. You're representing my heart. What you're sharing is not from you. You're just sharing what I've revealed. And so once you get to the point where you realize we're not doing it for us, then it opens a whole new world and there's no more self-consciousness.
I love something that you brought up. That's right. There is no more self-consciousness, like being self-conscious. I love the part that you shared that you worked, in the political realm, and you did all these like odd jobs, within, your purpose of being an artist. It was like you had, and then the tools will come in to help you to do that job, be it whatever that was, even if you didn't go to school for it. And it has really taught me something in this interview. And now I understand why I've done the things that I've done in my life, and that I've had angels and the tools come in, or whatever needed to be done for that project to happen. For instance, I suffer from dyslexia, and I don't like to read or write much. And I actually ended up writing a book that I didn't want to write, that was given the opportunity to me, which was called Live Your Happy. That's what this channel is based on. And coming from the space of being a dyslexic and not wanting to write or read, to publish a book and not even be a writer just blows me away. But now it makes sense by what you just said.
Absolutely. So for example, when the senator who was the minority senator in Delaware, his name is Senator Herman Holloway Sr., deceased now, he needed help with his campaign, and he was doing more for the poor, the needy, the downtrodden, the aged than anybody. And I said, okay, I'll help you with your campaign. Well, then it winds up I send him people to help him as legislative aides, but he said, I really need you here. So I start being liaison to Washington for the whole Senate. I had to learn to write law because it took too long for the lawyers. They were getting paid by the hour. And I said, God, you're going to have to help me. So sure enough, we just had legislative aid, legislative counsel check what I'd written. And I studied how to write law. Voila, a lot of the things I wrote are now laws in Delaware. And then he said to me, well, I need you to write a speech for me because I won't have time and I've got to do a program tonight with thousands of people. I said, you have the most eloquent speaker like Dr. King. How am I going to write your speech? He said, I have confidence you can do it. Well, you know what? I prayed. I said, God, please help me with this. I heard the senator's angel's voice in his own voice dictate to me the speech.
Wow. I believe that. It doesn't surprise me, especially coming from you, because you're so open. You're so open and willing. You're so open and willing. That's beautiful.
You have to ask.
And what's beautiful is to bring up here is that you will attract, that you attracted this person that believed in you and said that, just like D. Patrick Miller, which is the one that published my book. He's the one that told me I could do it and gave me the confidence and helped me to form it and write it. So it's as if God brings us these angels within to also help in that elevation, That's
right. I mean, I was only in my 20s, so I had to do what I had to do. And the angels are there anytime you ask for the help.
They're there. Wonderful. Well, Nanette, listen, I'm going to have you back sometime maybe next year, just because we can go on forever. We can do like a part 2 interview.
That would be fine. I'd be delighted to.
A part 2 interview. And
Did you?
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and grab my son to close the talk just because I want you to see him.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
And then that way we can kind of close. So everyone, if you want to keep everyone busy right now and show them maybe more paintings, and I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll show them some more paintings.
All right.
Okay, we have Jesus with the child here. And he's giving her the gift of the little Holy Spirit dove. And this is one of my favorite paintings, which I did for a children's book illustration. So you can also get that one. And then we have Jesus, the children of the world, with all the children of the different races. Now this is one of the Buddha. I'm going to show it to you up close. The Buddha after his enlightenment. And on the other side we have the christchurch.org information. And that's my logo. Let's see your adorable son.
Thank you for keeping everybody entertained.
Oh, what a precious little one. Hi. Can he see me or can I?
Yeah, he can see you. Hi, Ari. Say hi, Ari.
His name?
Ari?
Ari. Hi, Ari. Hi, Ari.
He says, look what it says here. I am the future.
Has he done this before? He talks to people.
No, I've never. Look, this is my husband.
Hi, I'm Nanette.
Wait, let me do this.
What's your name?
We have the whole family, Nanette.
Oh, it's a beautiful picture too.
We're still live.
That's so wonderful.
Hi.
What a pleasure to meet you. I actually
You too. We were just talking about holy couples, and I'm so glad you have each other to support, and this beautiful angel child too.
That's beautiful that when you brought up holy couple, I thought of Christian and I. So it's beautiful that you just mentioned that again, because our purpose is to awaken. You know,
They're the foundation for the heaven on earth and the ideal society. Without that, it's not going to happen. So,
thank you for that.
God bless you all.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Little angel, I wish I was there. I'd put my hand on his little head and say a prayer for him.
Hopefully we'll meet you one day.
Yes, if you ever get out to Virginia Beach or the East Coast, let me know. We'll get together.
Yes, we'll actually be there in May. We'll be in Boston. So maybe we can make that happen somehow.
You'll never know. I'll be up in Delaware, so I'll see you.
Wonderful. Well, you have any? Well, Christian actually, I follow upon your work through Stephanie, which she worked with me, and he loved it. He's like, this is amazing. So he really loved you even before I interviewed you.
Yeah, I was like, these
Computer
girls.
vision. And here's the one of Jesus with the little child giving a gift of the dove. Yeah, God always surprises me on what I'm going to paint next. That was for a children's book illustration.
Yeah. Well, Nanette, we're definitely going to have you back because you have such beautiful insights. I think don't say this to anybody. I think you're one of my favorites. Favorite interviews.
I'll be happy to come back. Yes, that's what I have to do now is share again. After a long sabbatical of taking care of family members transitioning, I'm now back out in the world. God bless you. Bye, Ari. He's pretty intense.
What can you see in him, Nanette?
Well, he's moving around a lot, but I can tell you one thing. It looks like he's going to be able to handle a lot of projects all at once as he grows up. And he will be able to manifest more easily what he wants than other people can. So you just teach him how to focus on the positive and it'll be smooth sailing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nanette.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Everyone that's watching, just remember, live your happy because it's your inheritance and it's your function. Till next time, bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
God bless.